Doomvi, Vamos, Vivamus, Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, just realizing it's a new day of recording. I didn't check our audio levels, but I think we're okay here. All right, so we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men number 178, Hell Hath No Fury. Bob Viacek returns for inking duties, and he is assisted by Brett Breeding. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, Stojr, but the page numbers have returned in the comic panels themselves. I don't know about you, but I like having the page numbers built into the strip. I kind of like knowing how far I am in an issue and how many pages are in it without having to, actually count it out.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not sure I like the cutting into the panels, but maybe that's always that way. But yeah, I enjoy having the page numbers in there.
All right, well, as for this issue, this is essentially a big fight issue between the Brotherhood and the X-Men. However, there are some threads to keep track of here. Firstly, Kitty goes to the Baxter building to find some device that Reed Richards built that she thinks could help save Colossus. However, she seemingly falls to her death. Professor X is trying to keep Rogue out of the fight because of her ties to Mystique and the Brotherhood, but it turns out the fight at the ballet was just a diversion so that Mystique could try to take Rogue back. Rogue, though, convinces Mystique to let her stay with Professor X to help train her in using her powers. All right, Stojr, what were your thoughts on this one?
I think this is just a fun beat 'em up fight issue. Like, it's good to see the X-Men, roughing it up with this version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I was flipping through there because we read so far ahead that I kind of was forgetting some of the plot points in this because I don't think there are a ton of plot points in this one. All right, I think it's mainly just a fight between them. It's interesting that Kitty is aware of some things that the Fantastic Four can do. I always like to think that some of this is just because Byrne wrote or was involved in writing or drawing the X-Men rather, and plotting it, and then he's doing the Fantastic Four at this time. So it's almost like you're visiting an old friend from that perspective. Otherwise, why isn't Kitty going to like Avengers Mansion or with something that Beast created or something like that, right? So I feel like there's a little bit of synergy there, just from even if they didn't part on the greatest of terms, just because of the history, so to speak. Some of the art looks a little not JR-ish on some pages. So I'm looking at page like 63 with the Blob and Destiny in the background. Like, I feel like, and maybe it's just because I was so focused on the way that his dad inked his work in the last issue, and then there's a bit of a difference there. So, not saying there's anything wrong with this, but this doesn't jump out at me as like a JR panel, that middle panel,
Sure.
or even Nightcrawler at the bottom.
I was going to say
slightly different.
I actually really like how much of a goober the Blob looks like here. I don't know why. I love that little design with its, his legs going out to the side, not like underneath as a normal human would be. But for whatever reason, I just like that.
I mean, he's got to worry about chafing, right? Like he's been at Disney World all day, and now he's doing the waddle home. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm no negativity on the art at all. It just looks different than some of the other pages, almost as if there's a little bit more of the the inker's influence on that page versus some other pages. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's an interesting final panel for the page with Kitty's apparent death there, and definitely has you interested for more, because how is she falling off a building like that if she can kind of fall through things? So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Despite this being a massive fight, I enjoyed the issue. It kept you engaged. There are some fun things like the instance of what the Blob looked like there. I also really early on in the issue, let's see, on page 54, I believe. I don't know why, but this just tickled me. That look on Wolverine's face, he is just so uncomfortable being carried by Storm on page 54. Just, arms crossed, just like, yep, okay. Also makes me think that must be one heck of a wind that Storm is blowing up in order to carry that heavy adamantium skeleton, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, she's holding him there. That's the part that throws me off, because there's a panel in one of the books that we're going to talk about today, I forget exactly what issue. I think it's the dragon one, where she's got the whole team flying behind her because she's got like an updraft there. And I think they do that a bunch of times in like the Outback era or in the 200s, where I feel like I've seen that before, of the team flying behind. But I was surprised she was holding him here because even with the updraft, she still kind of has him in her arms, which is, you're right, funny, but also, he's really heavy.
Yep. I also thought, when there's a big fight scene, you've got to do something clever or something interesting to engage a reader. And when I think about this, I think about Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko was very good at using like the scenery, the setting, novel uses of the powers of the characters and so forth. In this one, I think we get a really clever use of Nightcrawler's power, right? We've talked a little bit about how Nightcrawler's powers are increasing, and he can now carry someone with him a little more easily than he used to. So wrapping up this fight scene with him teleporting Avalanche, so that as Avalanche is mid-use of his powers, he ends up using his powers on one of his teammates instead of his intended target because Nightcrawler moved him. That's the kind of ingenuity that I really appreciate in comics when they're at their best. I thought that was just great, a novel use of Nightcrawler's powers.
And I think they've forgotten or purposely, more accurately, purposely downplayed or gotten rid of his ability to be invisible in the dark. I think I saw, or we might have read an interview at some point over this podcast, where that, they didn't like that. They kind of wanted to undo that they set up there. So we don't see that as prevalent here. But I always like that aspect of his powers, that he was able to do that.
Yeah.
But the distance wise thing for Nightcrawler, I think, stays for quite a while. I'm reminded of Uncanny 300, where he makes a couple page cameo, and he's kind of teleporting down a coastline, and he can only go a couple miles at a time, and he kind of has to see where he's going there. So it's not like this, I can transport halfway across the globe power, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I think it does make sense to still have that limitation of he needs to know where he's going, because otherwise he might materialize inside a wall or something, and then that's it. He's done. So, in a sense, I wonder if that's more a mental block than an ability block. Maybe he can go farther, but it's not wise to do so. I don't know. All right, I do have no prize for this one. I had to write it up there because this is a visual pun. The Exhibitionist Award goes to Cyclops and Madeline Pryor for their creepy post-coitus photograph that they sent to Professor X. And credit where credit is due on this one. This was first mentioned by Rascal Wolf in the Marvel Epic Podcast Discord server. So he did point that out first, and I had to, acknowledge that is pretty weird and creepy. And also kudos to Feliz on that same Discord server for asking the prescient question of, okay, but who took that photo?
I mean, if it was the Krakoa era, I'd be pretty confident that it was Wolverine. I think they're pretty firmly a thruple.
Really?
At that point in time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. They lay little Easter eggs for that. So when they lay out where the Greys or where the Summers clan is kind of living, there's this kind of circle of rooms in this place, and Jean, Wolverine, and Scott are right next to each other. And then they're always together, and they're kind of enjoying each other's company at different points in time. So it's been pointed out that they're probably a throuple in that, at least in Jonathan Hickman's head.
I don't know how I feel about that. I've always thought the relationship between Scott and Emma Frost was weird too, and I don't know where that started. But you know what? We'll cross some of those bridges at some point, I'm sure.
Oh, I got that whole explanation all teed up for you when we chat about, I think it's Dark Avengers that you had posted that question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to need that for Dark Avengers, which that's going to be this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, February 8th. So yeah, check in with us for that. All right, any other final thoughts here, Stojr?
No, I'm good. Looking forward to the next issue.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Again, if you've enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full big collected edition comic once a month. Again, this Sunday is going to be Dark Avengers. These daily one-shots will drop every day at 3 p.m. So thank you very much, guys, and we'll catch you again next time.